Welcome viewers to the first academic session of our action-oriented Global Tipping Point Summit, scheduled from today to January 2021. We are delighted to see participants from various parts of India and from other countries as well. The summit has been conceptualized by the dynamic education futurist, TEDx speaker, internationally acclaimed educator, and storyteller, Dr. Kumi S. Vivina. In October 2016, Dr. Vivina retired as professor and head of the Department of English, University of Mumbai, India. Dr. Vivina has two PhD degrees to her credit, one in literature and the other in education. She has published 11 books and 58 papers in reviewed national and international journals and critical anthologies. She has won numerous national and international awards. In 2013, her book on education, Sourceful Intelligence, was selected as among the 18 best books published in the USA. And her most recent book, What Children Really Want, has received critical acclaim from educators, psychologists, parents, writers from all over the world. In 2015, she was selected by the world leaders in education as among the 35 women from across the world changing educational paradigms. Dr. Vivina has her own storytelling organization called Wordfully Yours, which hosts storytelling programs and conducts training workshops. We now invite you to view a short film on the summit, followed by a few words by Dr. Vivina. Thank you.
Could we have the summit film, please? The summit film. Perhaps by the time the summit video comes on, I'll share my screen and say my thank yous to a whole lot of people who have majorly contributed to the summit. A summit as huge as this, involving 108 people who are working for over several months, couldn't have possibly happened without each and every one contributing in a very big way. My sincere thanks go out to the advisory board comprising Dr. Firoza Godrej, Mr. Noshir Karodi, Mr. Noshir Dadrawala, Mr. Sanjay Rastogi, Mr. Yazdi Tantra, Ms. Devika Chatterjee, Ms. Raki Chabria, and Ms. Fiona Reynolds. My summit coordinator, Ms. Donna Reens, has worked with me shoulder to shoulder for ages now. This whole summit was conceptualized in March 1918, and since then, we've been enjoying working on this summit. Thank you very much, Donna. Thanks also to the core committee members. Mr. Yazdi Tantra is once again a core committee member, Ms. Deepa Soman, Mr. Milind Soman, Mr. Glenn Concessio, and Mr. Bhaven Shah. Our partners include Tata Trent, Tantra Tech, K-Merck, Lumiere Business Solutions, Education World, Parents World, Penultimate, Teachers Help Teachers, First Moms Club, and Wolves. We have been extremely fortunate to get endorsements from people like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The letter is long, but I will only read a short excerpt from that. The Dalai Lama says, I am pleased to know about the Global Tipping Point Summit and its focus on improving the present education system so that our younger generation can become more responsible citizens of our planet. Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan, renowned psychologist, Dr. Kersi Chowda, choreographer, dancer, Shamak Dava, educationist, spiritual guide, and social reformer Shri M. Cyrus Fraser, whom everyone knows and loves for his many programs. He's a TV writer, theater personality, comedian, and an author. And Mr. Baman Irani, theater and film writer, voice artist, and a renowned photographer. Sincere thanks to everyone. Thanks also to our wonderful speakers, to the change facilitators, and to all those involved in this program. Thank you.
Would you like to see the film now?
Yes, please. Yes, please. From November this year to January 2021 is designed to explore paradigm shifts in education and parenting in an innovative way. Our aim is to create healthy learning and nurturing ecosystems by combining knowledge with self-awareness and wisdom to transform our lack-based consciousness into one rooted in abundance. Who will be attending the summit? Policymakers and education board authorities, principals, teachers, college and university professors, parents, caregivers, librarians, counselors, students, and anyone who's interested in education and parenting. What do we do differently? We have world-class visionaries and thought leaders as speakers who will expound their ideas and point the way in the right direction. They will be supported by far in the belly change facilitators who will suggest effective and practical ways of implementing the ideas of the speakers. At the online summit, participants will be invited to form action groups in the areas of their choice and create the change they wish to see in the world. By 2025, we hope to reach out to as many people as possible through face-to-face and online talks and workshops. Come, be a part of the change. For more details on the summit, please visit our website www.gtps4change.org. See you there. Yes, Nina, we could continue.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And now that we've all had a glimpse of what the summit promises to be, we begin by welcoming our first speaker of the day, Mr. Satya Raghavan. Mr. Satya Raghavan is Director, Content Partnerships, YouTube, India. In this role, he currently heads the Entertainment Partnerships team, which works with top large entertainment partners, including movie studios, TV broadcasters, news partners, etc. Satya is responsible for working with these partners and scaling their presence and business on YouTube. Satya joined Google in 2014 and initially led the partnerships team, which looked after aspiring and growing YouTube creators. While he was leading the team, he was instrumental in putting together scaled programs to identify, nurture, and grow creators. Prior to Google, Satya has had various leadership positions at Star TV, Helion Ventures, Coca-Cola, and
Hi, Nina, can you hear me okay?
Yes, please.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Kumi ji, for having me as a part of this summit. Before interacting with you, I had read about the things you have written in various different newspapers and all of that. And when I met you, I was really delighted to see the kind of impact you already had, but more importantly, your thinking of having through this forum. It's really really magnificent in terms of scale. So really excited to be a part of this forum. I'm going to dive right in and share my ideas on how we can possibly help you achieve this mission, and then we can towards the end have a quick discussion on how we can make some of these things happen. I'm going to quickly share my screen. Yasdi, do let me know if you're able to see the presentation.
Yes, please. We can see it.
Okay, awesome, great. So first of all, thanks everyone for joining in on a Saturday. It's a good thing that this program is starting at about 4 o'clock, because any earlier and we would have all been in the middle of our afternoon siesta. But in case you're still not quite all in here, grab a coffee and join us for the next hour and a half as we meet some amazing speakers who are going to talk to you about some really cool ideas. The idea that I had is actually very simple, and sometimes I wonder why we haven't thought of doing more ideas like these in the past. But I think the timing is also very important. So the idea is very simple. How can we have education for all through digital pedagogic techniques, through digital platforms, whether it's on the mobile or on the laptop or perhaps even on television? How is it that we can get education for all, right? So I don't know if you realize this, but kids are probably the most affected in the last 6 to 10 months due to the pandemic. I think eventually all of us figured out how to work from home. All of us figured out how to quietly sneak out wearing our mask and get our jobs done and come back with minimal interaction with people. But children and schools had the toughest time, right? Not just did schools not open, but all of a sudden we had schools, whether they are private schools or public schools or municipal schools or schools in rural areas, suddenly having had to deal with this challenge of teaching their children online, right? And not just a few children, all 300 million of them who are out there in their homes, and really had to then get into the academic year sometime in June, July, August. And it probably shouldn't surprise anyone. It's not been an easy journey for schools, right? Not all schools were able to put up a good system. I have to candidly confess that I have a kid in my house, and she had a very good time in her school learning online. But when I saw stories like these, I was actually very humbled that a whole lot of children in India have just not been able to reach out to their schools online. And you can check any survey. A bunch of surveys were done across, and whether it is schools in the municipal space, or whether it is schools which are run by the government, either students couldn't connect, or the techniques or the pedagogy used wasn't really up to scratch. And we can't blame anyone. We all got taken by surprise in this entire pandemic, right? While all of this was happening, you will be amazed to learn that 99% of the startups in India that got more than $100 million of funding were all from the education sector. So hindsight in hindsight, there were a lot of startups in this space, but not everyone ever could anticipate the fact that there would be a pandemic and they would need to serve schools. But there are a lot of now startups who are actually trying to help schools, trying to help students. So I think we are definitely, if not prepared for something in the future, we're definitely on our way, right? So that's really something amazing, that a whole lot of people were struggling, but at the same time, capacity was ramping up. But I think we should all also realize that it's not just the pandemic that was an issue. Even before the pandemic hit us, the state of education in our country actually can be a lot better. So I don't know if you all refer to the ASER report, but please do. That's an annual report put together by Pratham, which tells you how well students are actually learning, what are education outcomes. And I'll share a couple of statistics with you. 16% of class 1 students in rural districts, actually only 16% could read to the prescribed level of what a class 1 student could read, which means the remaining 84 could not read to the level that they were supposed to be at, right? So this was even before the pandemic. If you look at math, we all pride ourselves at being great at math, but only 41% of these students could recognize 2-digit numbers, right? So we were anyway living in a very challenged kind of situation as far as students are concerned, right? We have literally, we are looking forward to all sorts of solutions that can help us solve this problem, and then there is the pandemic that we have to now overcome and then look beyond, right? In that sense. And we all can pass the blame, but at the end of the day, it's not just our responsibility, it's also the government's, it's also the private sector. But I think ultimately the buck should stop with us, right? If each one of us as individuals can do something about this, if each one of us can impact one child, maybe a few million of us coming together can impact millions in the long run, right? So, and that's really the zone in which my presentation is all about, which is how can we as individuals really make an impact, right? In that sense. So here's what we saw at YouTube. So at YouTube, no surprise, apart from the fact that we all come to YouTube to get our daily dose of entertainment, whether it is watching a movie or whether it is watching a song or what have you. Over the past few years, learning and education has become a huge use case on YouTube. People are learning not just about how they can do well in academic exams, which we're also crazy about, but they're also learning about how to use information as in a supplementary manner to what they are being taught in schools. There's also content that is telling us how to perhaps enrich ourselves, learn music or learn dancing or learn yoga. And we really saw a lot of channels in the learning space actually emerge during the pandemic. And who are these channels? I'll be honest, I don't know who these people are, but massive respect for these people who are actually setting up channels, who actually have realized that their students, and some of these are teachers, that their students are having a tough time understanding what's being taught in class because there's no one-on-one connect. And what are they doing? They're setting up channels, right? Here's a channel that's actually teaching students in Tamil, and a really clever name for the channel, which is Teacher for Backbenchers. Here's another channel. Looks like Ganesh is a principal and a physics teacher, and he's set up his channel and he's putting out videos on in physics. Here's a channel from Mr. Jha, who's actually trying to transform lifestyles through teaching them, giving them insights, giving them motivational conversations and things like that. And people teaching each other languages. Here's V.S. Mankar, who's actually teaching things in Marathi. And these are all people who are pretty much like you and me, right? They're teachers, or they are they are connected to the world of education, but all of them took that first step. And that first step is as simple as actually starting a YouTube channel. And some of them have actually been very successful too. They've got thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and even more viewers who are watching their content, right? And we also believe at YouTube that almost anything can be taught online. We've seen amazing examples of people who've actually topped exams like the UPSC by teaching themselves through things like Google and YouTube. We have seen young kids learn gymnastics who are probably in remote places and they don't have access to a gymnastics teacher, who are learning things by watching videos on YouTube. We have someone who's actually found success by learning on YouTube. This is Neeraj Chopra, who perfected himself by watching YouTube videos of Olympic champions. And last but not the least, YouTube is also helping people earn a living, right? So here's a platform, and it's not just YouTube. There are many digital platforms out there. There are many social media platforms which can actually be used to teach something, right? And all it takes is for someone to upload a video. So time for some action. Whether you're a school, whether you're an individual, whether you're a teacher, you will have an opportunity to make an impact through the digital platforms, right? We put up a campaign called #TeachFromAnywhere because we realized a lot of teachers were reaching out to us saying, hey, how do we create a YouTube channel for our students? So So we have plenty of resources out there. And I always tell people, don't worry if you can't speak to anybody at YouTube. Everything that you need to know about YouTube is on YouTube, right? A lot of resources, if you're interested in starting your own channel, whether you're a school or whether you're a teacher. A lot of boards have also jumped in, and they're trying to use platforms like YouTube to actually teach their students. So the ICSC kicked off its virtual learning series on YouTube. Many schools, we realized, have also done the same thing. And it's very simple, right? All you have to do is build video into your teaching plan. And sometimes you don't even need to create videos. You can actually curate them. There's wonderful content out there. If you can search for some good content that you think makes sense, you can just organize it on your own playlist and share it with your students. And if you're interested in creating videos, then think of how it can be sustainable, right? Because it's got to be easy, right? It's probably a new skill that you'll have to master. So think of sustainable formats, and obviously, make your content fun and relatable, because students, as you all know, have got the attention spans of a doorknob, perhaps, to crack a silly joke. But you'll have to make your content fun and relatable, right? And there are many interesting formats out there that you can think of using: how-to videos, listicles, animation, help videos for exams, homeworks, or the good old plain lecture that most of you educators are used to giving, right? And not that you only need to create videos. I also ended up donating 2 of my old phones, because I saw articles that said that there are students out there who can't attend online classes purely because they don't have access to a laptop or a mobile phone, right? So it's not just content you can create, you can also facilitate access. So simple ideas are really what ultimately make the most impact in that sense. I came across a story about a retired teacher who then said that, look, if online can't be solved, let me go to where the students are, right? So literally, Sambhaji Salunke, a retired Zilla Parishad school teacher, he started, visiting homes of students and teaching them there, right? So all I'm saying is, sometimes all it takes is a simple idea, whether it is making a video and starting a channel, whether you're a school and you can then incorporate video in your pedagogy. Or if you're a teacher, you can set up your own channel, or you can donate your laptop, or you can donate your mobile phone, or put your best foot out there, remember to wear a mask, and actually, teach someone. And all of you out there will have your own magnificent ideas. So looking forward to hearing some amazing ideas from you all. Signing off, I just have one thing to say. I think it's time to get obsessed. It's time to get obsessed with the idea of teaching these kids out there. Someone, a very famous educator, I think it was Maria Montessori, who said that children's minds are like sponges. Whatever you teach them at a young age, they will absorb, right? So if you can make a difference, whether or not you are connected to the education sector, I think there's a student waiting out there for possibly your help. And who knows what heights that student will scale in the future. That's all from my side, Nina. Thank you all so much, and looking forward to some great conversation with all of you out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kumi, you need to unmute.
Thank you, Satya. Thank you very much. It's amazing to see how much you packed into such a short presentation. Very, very motivating, very inspiring, facts, figures, dreams, everything. So thank you very much. We will wait for the questions to come in a little later. In the meantime, we could carry on, and I could talk about something really important, which is the structure of the summit. For that, I will need to share my screen, so bear with me for a moment. The Global Tipping Point Summit is designed to be slightly different from the normal conferences and workshops that we attend. Our speaker today has been Mr. Satya Raghavan, but there is an action project linked to the theme on which he spoke. And the action project is spreading awareness of basic rights and equality through the digital medium. Mr. Raghavan just told us of all the amazing things that one could do with the digital medium. So the structure of the summit is this. At the center is a speaker. The speaker makes a presentation for around 20 minutes. For a while, the speaker has been liaising with 4 change facilitators. The 4 change facilitators are the ones who are going to take the project ahead. As busy a person as Mr. Satya Raghavan has also given us time and approved of the action project. The 4 change facilitators are here. They will be providing training in 4 different areas of that project. Today, at the end of their presentation, we will ask the online participants to fill in Google Forms. The Google Forms will be available on the website from Monday onwards. If this project excites you, please fill in Google Forms, come in as action group members. Each group will comprise 10 members. And these 10 members will be trained by the 4 change facilitators. Each of the change facilitators will provide free training for 3 hours over 3 months. So we are not demanding too much of your time. It's only 1 hour of screen time per month. At the end of 3 months, the change facilitators will play a very different role. They will play the role of mentors, while the action group members will go out into the world, create their own groups, and implement change. Time and again, there will be reviews of the project, and at the end of the entire year, there will be a project report. We will cull important points from that and create a white paper and send it to the government and inform the government that we are not merely talking about change. These are the changes we've actually implemented. And then the Global Tipping Point Summit for the whole year comes to an end, and we have the next summit. Like the Kala Gora Festival, which is an annual festival, we are hoping to make the Global Tipping Point Summit an annual event. So I urge the online participants to step in and help us really create change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We now welcome our first group of facilitators. Mr. Ruslan Khusainov is International Director of United for Human Rights, the world's largest non-governmental. Currently, he is based in Los Angeles, California. From 2009 to 2014, he was chairman of Youth for Human Rights Russia. Mr. Khusainov has spread awareness of human rights and equality to 800 million people. He has also coordinated Youth for Human Rights yearly international conference at the United Nations in New York. We also have with us Mr. Fraser Scott. He's an international ambassador for United for Human Rights. He is the co-creator of Born Free and Equal, a podcast that has spread awareness of basic rights and equality to 100 million people in India since lockdown. Welcome, Mr. Khusainov and Mr. Scott. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's a great honor, in fact, to be part of this event. Well, the main thing what I like about this Global Tipping Point Summit is that it's geared to be practical. And this is exactly the way we should, go about, because obviously with many different sources of information, with many different, you know, educational resources that we can use to, you know, go about education, we have to think of also how to put theory into practice. And what I like about this summit is that we can take all of the, you know, amazing information that we just got from Mr. Satya, and that we will get from our facilitators who will speak after me, and put it into practice right away. So we will split the presentation between Fraser and I. I will do an introduction about who we are and what the project is, while Fraser will talk about practical, you know, sides and details of how we can put it to use. So we were thinking how to take this challenge of, you know, digital education and put it into a, you know, useful application now. So what we found is one of the major outpoints that there is in the world is lack of knowledge about fundamental human rights. Our organization, United for Human Rights, has its offices and chapters in over 100 countries. So we've been able to really research and see on the ground situations that, you know, deal with human rights and education. And we recently actually did a research and survey, and we found out that the one most valuable and important subject that people think we should pay attention to is education. Just 69% of the respondents actually named that as the most important point. So how do we combine this concept of human rights and education? So this is the main, you know, goal and task that we put in front of ourselves. So I'll share a presentation. I'll speak very briefly. If anyone would like to get the presentation, we can share it in the end of the event. But otherwise, I'll just want to give you a glimpse of what we've done just before the lockdown and what was the foundation for us to develop new online curriculum for this period, because obviously online education is the way to go. So so I hope that everybody can see the presentation now. We'll put it full screen. Okay. Okay, I hope that everybody can see this now. Okay, so United for Human Rights and its youth program called Youth for Human Rights are definitely one of the organizations that work hard to educate people about human rights. We calculate over 180 million people a year. Our international human rights summits annually are held at the United Nations in New York. We also work in different countries with all sorts of people, educators, police, law enforcement, military, and we want human rights to be taught on in all sectors of the society. One of the examples in Colombia, for example, we've been teaching human rights since 2009 to over 200,000 military personnel all over the country in all provinces. And as a result of this, the decrease of, you know, complaints against against human rights violations committed by the army dropped down 96%. And this is an example of how pure education without any additional enforcement can change the country. We worked with police. We also work with sport teams, like in Costa Rica. For example, in 2018, we were part of the FIFA World Cup, and president of the country, Costa Rica, as well as the national soccer team, adopted our program to make it available for 100,000 people across the country. So it also spreads in, all the layers of society, such as schools, or, such as military and, government offices. Like in Guatemala, we have a partnership with the Attorney General to educate police personnel and military on human rights. In Mexico, in fact, we've been active since 2004, and we were part of the reform in the constitution of the country to include the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all of the 30 human rights, into the constitution. So one of another examples, for example, we attract people into our work by doing some big events, such as this one, where we achieved the World Guinness record with over 9,000 booklets laid in a sentence called "Know Your Human Rights" on the stadium. We also reach very far-reaching communities, like in Papua New Guinea, in the Philippines, in Mongolia, in Solomon Islands. Our events include marches, lectures in schools, petition drives, you name it. Last year at the at the World Summit of Nobel Peace Prize laureates, we, United for Human Rights, and the founder of our organization, Mary Shuttleworth, were given a Peace Summit Medal for social activism by the Nobel Peace Prize laureates, 21 of them, in fact. So to sum up, with all of that experience in mind, we were thinking, what can we do and how can we help the community free of charge to learn about human rights in this challenging and very unusual times when the pandemic hit. So we were thinking, how do we make human rights education available to everyone? And as Satya said, now with YouTube, with online resources, and with all of the platforms that are now available, we have to use all of these channels to continue educating. And he gave examples of how really the necessity is large in the country and worldwide. So what we developed is called an online course. Many people, let me share my different screen here. So many people, in fact, don't know even 3 of their human rights. And mainly people can say right to life or right to education, but there are 30 of them. So how do we really teach human rights in a way that anyone, including those who have very little literacy ability, can take these resources and learn all of the human rights? So we did this online course, which is so simple that anyone from middle school to university level can teach and learn it. So it is available at humanrights.com/course. It is absolutely free of charge, and anyone can take it, literally learn about human rights within 3 to 6 hours. You can see that the curriculum itself is based in several sections that starts with the introduction and background of human rights, and then it goes through articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1 to 30 in just a few lessons. And the good thing is that each section is built around a video. So you not only have to read, but you can actually watch a video and very simply, in a few minutes, get a full grasp of what each part of the human right is. And then, of course, you do a, check your vocabulary and test your knowledge quizzes so that this knowledge sinks in and you can use it later, as you go in. So this is a very, overall, very brief and fundamental brief overview about our course and what we do. So we thought that we will share this platform as one of the projects that taken on by anyone, because it's all free, because it's accessible anywhere where you have internet across the planet, because it doesn't discriminate against any other means that you would like to use. If you want to use social media to promote it, or you want to use Zoom, or you want to use any other platform, you can incorporate it as part of your work. So this will be very beneficial for teachers, principals, and for students themselves. If you're a student, you can just go and do it on your own. So this is the simplicity of our program. And I am very excited because facilitators that are gonna speak after me will tackle different ways of how can we take just one concept and put it on different channels and platforms that can, duplicate and reach thousands and millions. Obviously, when you have some good idea, next question is, how do you get this word out? And I'm very honored to be part of this team who did figure it out and who does have tremendous experience to teach you how you can do the same. So I guess I turn over to Fraser for further explanation and detailed introduction.
Thank you, Ruslan. Glenn, can you share my screen, please, my PDF? Thank you. Okay, so Ruslan is the International Director of United for Human Rights, and as he said, he has been responsible for 180 million people educated with their human rights this year alone. So I am an international ambassador for United for Human Rights, and I work closely with Sheena Chauhan, who is a South Asia ambassador, and we actually are in charge of Mumbai. So we are responsible for reaching all of the people in Mumbai with their human rights. So this is a photo of Sheena Chauhan at the United Nations in New York being given the Hero Award by the President of United for Human Rights, Dr. Mary Shuttleworth. If we could have the next slide, please. If you Google Indian actor, human rights, Sheena Chauhan comes up #1 on Google. She was awarded the Hero Award at the United Nations in New York for reaching 65 million people in 1 month with their human rights. If we could have the next slide, please. Recently, Sheena and I have run a podcast called Born Free and Equal, where we've had actors like Sonakshi Sinha, Ravina Tandon, Sonu Sood, and many others that have helped us reach over 100 million people in the last month with human rights. So we're very much concentrated on India. At the bottom picture is Sheena and I doing our normal type of lecture at Whistling Woods, educating the students. At this time, there was 300 students in the room, and we were teaching them their human rights with a standard lecture from United for Human Rights. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So these are our pre-pandemic lectures. As you can see, no one is wearing a mask. You would not be able to do this today, unfortunately. But this is the type of thing that we do, teach hundreds of people about their human rights. Next slide, please. It can be slum schools, it can be private schools. Next slide, please. This is a government school. Next slide, please. But because of the pandemic, obviously things have gone online. And in the past, when we used to do lectures for 200 or 300 people, we were so happy. You know, we'd go back to Ruslan, we'd say we did 300 people today, and he'd send us a cup of tea or something like that, and, you know, to congratulate us. But then we started doing it online. This is a project we did with Dr. Kavita, who is the head of a department in Guru Nanak University in Mumbai. The last project we did with her, we reached 465 people and we didn't even have to leave our house. Next slide, please. And these lectures, which is what we need your help with. Basically, what we want is if you can fill out the Google online form and say you want to help, you can help us reach hundreds and hundreds of people and spread awareness of basic rights and equality. We want to reach 1 million people in the next 2 months. That's our goal. So we need your help. Next slide, please. If we could zoom in. So the whole trick is, the whole game is to increase awareness and education of basic rights. Now, this gives you an example. This slide, which we've just lost, gives you an example. Can we have that slide back, please? Thank you. This shows you how effective our lectures are, our online lectures are. So before the online lecture, 68% of people were moderately well informed about their human rights. And 7.8% of people did not know their human rights at all. But after the lecture, 24% of people were moderately well informed, and I can't read that, but I think it's 78% were extremely well informed. So our goal is spreading awareness of human rights. And if you join us and help give these lectures, you will hugely increase the awareness of India about their human rights. If you sign the Google form, we will show you how you can deliver lectures to thousands of students from your home and get thousands of students to know about their basic rights and equality. So sign the Google form at the end of the lecture and help us spread awareness of basic rights and equality to India. That's it.
Thank you, Ruslan. Thank you, Fraser. We now move on to our next speaker. Father Jude Fernandes is a member of the Society of Jesus, Jesuits. He holds a degree in economics, philosophy, and theology, and a postgraduate degree in education. He has been teaching in schools since 1996. Presently, he heads a state in Moscow, Mumbai. He has a special interest in networking schools to achieve better participation and building school culture. Welcome, Father.
Father Jude, you're muted.
Yes. Thank you for unmuting. Thank the host. Good evening to you all. I have here a slide mentioning clearly the area or the topic or the medium which I will use. It is social networking with different stakeholders. What I wish to do, or the journey I embark on, is motivating students and adults to take up the three-hour course on human rights. Fraser was speaking to us about the program, and so was Russell speaking. So I'm going to tell you how I intend connecting with many to do this 3-hour course on human rights. Firstly is I would like to use the social media, which involves all stakeholders in our school, the school where I head. These include students, teachers, parents, benefactors, school alumni, and of course, Jesuits who are in charge of various institutions. We have with us in our school 1,400 students, and I would like to motivate each one of them. I would like to do this through the teachers who teach in their classrooms online presently. These teachers will be enabled and empowered with teaching techniques. They will use various teaching techniques which are online presently. And after the pandemic, definitely they will continue correlating human rights with various subjects. The teachers will have training and will be motivated to conduct and take up the topic of human rights every time they enter a classroom or at any opportunity they have, for example, to conduct an assembly, to conduct an event like the annual day, etc. Parents' involvement goes beyond school boundaries. I'll be using the family as a point of contact where we find various siblings and other members of the family. These will sit and discuss human rights. We also have the school alumni. Our school is a 158-year-old school, began in 1863. We have generations of learners who love the school and alumni who want to give back. Definitely, they will want to take the human rights program ahead. I will see how to tap these resources online at present and later on through our contacts. We also have many benefactors who love our school. These will definitely say yes to motivating others in their contacts. We have neighboring schools. The area where we have our school has several schools of different types, different mediums, different languages functioning. Definitely, we would like to call all heads or school leaders from these schools and motivate them to go back to their school and take this further. The work is anonymous and the challenge is great, but it's nevertheless interesting. And when you see figures like millions, I think my share or my contribution is going to be just a drop in the ocean of the millions that the others are reaching out to. Uh, I would like the help of many of the others who are watching this show today, who will be volunteers to help and take this, carry this concept further. I need your blessings. Yes.
Thank you, Father Jude. We now move on to our next speaker, Dr. Kavita Pandey. She is the head, Department of Integrated Bioanalytical Sciences at Guru Nanak Khalsa College, an autonomous institution. She has a PhD in fermentation technology and has research experience of over 9 years with several publications in international journals of repute. Some of the key areas of her interests are fermentation technology, functional foods, and nutraceuticals. She is also the mentor for the Leo Club of Khalsa College and is involved in multiple projects of social impact. Welcome, Dr. Pandey.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. First of all, I would like to express that it is a great pleasure and indeed an honor to be here at this platform and get an opportunity to interact and share my views. So thank you, Kumi ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. Moving on to, so as stated earlier, the entire organization is working towards a common aim of spreading across the awareness of the 30 human rights. And in the same agenda, I am going to talk about, or I am going to work or explore the social networking aspects in order to reach out to the maximum youth of the digital India and spread 30 human rights awareness to each of them. Can I have the next slide, please? Well, honestly, when Fraser took the webinar with my students, I myself was not aware that there are 30 different human rights. And that's what stirred me, and I got into this, I can say, activity, I pursued the course, the e-certificate, and then I felt like me, after education, living in a city like Mumbai, if I'm not aware of certain rights, definitely there are many more across who need to be, educated about what rights they hold. Next slide, please. So as said, I am also the mentor of Leo Club of Khalsa, wherein though the students are from the science background, they do something for the society. So they try to give back something to the society by working on some problem or some theme. And there, when I told them, let's take up the theme of spreading across the human rights, I got to see a lot of question marks on their faces. Of course, they were convinced after the webinar, but still they couldn't foresee what it could lead to. And after giving them an assignment of going through the things, I got wonderful insights from the students. And the common point to take away home message was creating a culture of human rights so that everyone is living in a future, in a society where we all are aware of the rights. So why are these rights important? It's because with rights come certain responsibilities, and accordingly, we have to deliver certain duties. And it is the beauty of the balance between the rights and duties that make us a responsible citizen. Because exercising all rights but not doing your duties is going to make you arrogant. And not exercising your rights but just going on performing your duties is making you a slave. That's not what we envision for the digital India. And the best target group that we are starting with is the youth, because that's where the future of the country lies. And with the digitalization and the current pandemic situation, we are going to target the social networking sites to reach out to the maximum masses. Next slide, please. So I think social network is something that everyone is aware of, and there are many available, many different platforms available. Well, as a prototype or proof of concept thing, when I started this with the Leo Club of Khalsa, I had a handful of students, around 20 to start with. And then when they pursued the course, they themselves were convinced and they started spreading the message right from their home, reaching out to their siblings or their parents or their neighbors, friends. And that's how today we have got, a very good number of participants who have completed the course and the chain reaction is on. Next slide, please. So out of all these social networks, currently we are targeting on only these three. For example, Facebook has 2.45 billion followers, Instagram has 1 billion, and Twitter 0.5 billion. So imagine the potential that they carry of spreading a single message to so many people at the same time. So the project that I'm working on is going to use these platforms and make more and more youth, or in general, the total population, aware of their human rights and keep continuing the chain reaction. So definitely, this is not a single man's show. And next slide, please. So I would like to have people joining me and making this even grander. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kavita Pandey. We now move on to our next change facilitator, Ms. Samina Agwan. Ms. Samina Agwan is a teacher, poet, bibliophile, activist, currently employed as HOD of Science at the Universal School in Tarapur. Ms. Agwan uses poetry as a tool for activism about social and environmental causes. Welcome, Ms. Samina. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you for that introduction. Good evening, everyone. Now that you've heard the speaker and the change facilitators, I'm sure you have got a brief idea of what the objectives of this particular project, which is spreading awareness of basic rights and equality through the digital medium, are. I'll be furthering upon those same objectives, except the medium that I'll be speaking about are digital platforms like Zoom and Google Meet, just like the one that you're using right now. They certainly have their advantages in the sense that they allow real-time conversation. Again, like the one that we're having right now, questions can be answered and information can be given. interests can be sought in real time, face to face, which is not possible through physical conferences right now. Another advantage of these platforms is that they allow you to engage with a large audience, as Fraser mentioned earlier. So you can simultaneously engage with hundreds and I might say thousands of people at one go and disseminate information. So these platforms are great for the kind of project that we are dealing with. With the pandemic that has happened, we've seen that shift towards digital media, right? Or to put it simply, I'd say we are adapting as a population. So earlier, someone who was not very comfortable with using these platforms, myself included, is now better equipped at dealing or conducting sessions using these platforms. So what we aim to do is use these platforms which already exist and we're using to our advantage right now in a situation like this to further education about human rights and the course that people will have to take. Especially for educators, if I speak from personal experience, we have been interacting with our students on an average 5 to 6 days a week, right, using these platforms. So that machinery and that network already exists. So all we're going to look at is how to use this existing network and talk to people about their human rights, further the information that we already have and engage them with the material that is digitally available to them. So motivating and encouraging people to carry out the course and make the scope of the course interesting by using these platforms is what we are looking at and something that we are looking to work on. Having said that, I think it's really exciting, this entire project put together using all of the digital tools that we have available to us and picking the one that best works for whoever wishes to bring about the change. So I'm really excited and I'm sure the others are as well. So we're really looking forward to a lot of support from your end, and I'm sure we'll get that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very heartening to hear of the different ways in which you plan to reach out. We are sure this project will succeed. We have a few questions from our viewers, and perhaps we could start with them. One of the questions that I would like to address directly to Satya is this. When researching for my own TEDx talk a couple of years ago, I realized that there are 261 million children who remain unschooled, and that came as a shock. So obviously, the digital medium is a fantastic way to reach out to the millions of children. Sugata Mitra, in his classic study called The Hole in the Wall, tells us that digital learning is here to replace social learning. I am wondering about that. In post-COVID times, do you see blended learning as a possibility, or do you see digital learning as very successfully replacing face-to-face learning? Because in my opinion too, social learning is important. Your take on it, Satya?
Yeah. No, thanks, Dr. Kumi, and that's a great question, and it's actually a very relevant one. I often think about it because I talked about my kid, and I talked about how she is learning at this point of time. I have no doubt in my mind that it's a set of blended solutions that ultimately work, right? And who knows what the future holds in terms of newer technologies or newer ways to learn, right? It's not about abandoning what was old and just taking on what is new. It's about trying to find out what is the best possible way to learn given circumstances of people, right? So at this point of time, for a whole lot of people, digital actually came to the rescue wherever they could do it well enough, right? But for a whole lot of people, that wasn't the solution, which is why I actually shared the example of that teacher who's actually going from home to home and teaching kids who can't be taught, right? I've seen schools in news articles on TV who have actually made their students sit out in the open in a field and teach people. I've seen people teach students in the middle of a lake on boats, right? So I think, I mean, we all have to be very pragmatic, right? It's never a one size fits all, and it's never a single stroke or a single solution that will solve all problems. At this point of time, any idea, any help is important, right? So let's just put ourselves out there, whether we do it through a telephone call, whether we do it through a TV channel, whether we do it through a YouTube video, or whether we do it by knocking on the door. It doesn't matter. We have to just get obsessed to educate someone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, I have a question from the audience. Mr. Raghavan, has the current pandemic situation intensified or brought to the forefront once again the social divide that already exists in India in the context of online education?
It's a great question, and I think it's becoming a fact of life that needs multiple solutions to solve it and resort it to equilibrium, right? So it goes without saying, you know, all the news that I'm reading about how, you know, people from poorer stratas or people from rural areas or people from municipal schools are not being able to get educated at this point of time, right? And I'm seeing enough instances of people who are obviously in private schools, possibly living in cities, and possibly from a different socioeconomic community, being able to do something, if not the perfect thing, right? So it is a challenge, right? And my heart goes out to every one of those people who are not able to learn at this point of time. And I come back full circle to what I said in the beginning, which is whether it's a video, or whether it's a donated phone, or whether it's a knock on the door, right? We have to help who needs help at that given point of time.
Okay. Kumi, do you have another question?
You can carry on. There are fewer questions here from this side.
Okay, so I mean, talking about the online education and the present pandemic, is YouTube involved in supporting any rural programs or government programs like Disha and, you know, other education programs that we have?
Yes.
YouTube, it's the channel itself.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So we are actually working with several state boards at this point of time, where we are helping them understand how best to use the platform. We're working with several schools, both from rural and urban areas. Our helplines and help aliases are open all the time for any queries that come from wherever in the world. So in a lot of ways in the pandemic, I think we've been pretty much working 24/7, 365 in trying to help whoever needs help. And there are a lot more initiatives that we have planned for the future. So at this point of time, yes, it's all systems go, not just YouTube, but a whole lot of our creators and partners, right? These are all these individuals who have set up their own channels. These are all these individuals who are probably doing something for a school. We are trying to support as many people as possible, so that, you know, one more better video comes out that can possibly educate someone.
One of the questions that I have is that, is there any kind of quality screening that you are thinking of? Because with a plethora of videos being created, it's quite likely, and it is a fact, that a lot of them are extremely substandard.
Yes, absolutely. And our algorithm tends to surface videos that have got more engagement. So for example, I always tell someone that if there were 2 5-minute videos left and the world is about to end, what video would the YouTube algorithm recommend to you? Would it recommend the video that had, you know, on average 3 minutes of consumption, or on average 4 minutes of consumption, right? One of the signals we take is, you know, average time consumed for a video. So we could say that, look, the video that had on average 4 minutes of consumption out of the 5 minutes length could possibly be a video with more engagement, right? So we would then recommend videos like that. We also take into account signals like, you know, how videos are consumed, whether videos are shared, whether videos are liked. So all of those are signals that we look at and try and determine what is a good video which can be shared with one more person. At the same time, obviously, we are a platform, so you know, anyone can upload videos in that sense. But what we have seen in the area of learning, is that one more video will help one more person, right? In that sense. So we are very cognizant of the fact that we need more people to come out with more educational videos, because at the end of the day, right, there are schools which don't even have a teacher, right? So if one more video can be out there which can teach one more person something, maybe that their learning outcomes could get impacted.
Okay, my next question, in the context of the misuse of media recently, okay, people are being convicted for no reason and things like that. So how can YouTube regulate the content? Even the videos coming out for education, we don't know if they are, the correct content or this. So how can you regulate the content?
Yeah. So
What is
YouTube,
YouTube doing
yeah.
for that?
YouTube actually really has many ways in which we look at content and whether that content is of certain quality or not. But the first principle that we look at is what is known as our community guidelines, right? So we have an extensive set of community guidelines, and anyone who sets up a channel or puts up a video, they are actually supposed to adhere to our community guidelines. So our first filter is actually our community guidelines. The next filter is really what we call the wisdom of the masses, right, or the wisdom of the consumers. So we get a lot of people who are actually flagging off content to us which they deem inappropriate, right? And that is when we match that back with our community guidelines. Someone then looks at it when we get a flag like that, and then we then take a call whether that video is indeed, fit to be on the platform as such. Even more than that, in the last few quarters and almost a couple of years now, we've also invested a lot in technology, where we use advanced artificial intelligence and machine language and machine learning technologies to actually help us identify videos even before it has had a single view, if it is going against our community guidelines, right? So it's a mix of all of these solutions that literally is at work every second. And that's what makes the platform very robust. So I tell everyone that if you think you see a video, that you deem unfit to be on the platform, please flag it, and then someone will definitely look at it.
So ultimately, it's the viewer discretion and wisdom that we have to rely on, right? Viewers.
So it's a mix. As I said, it's a mix of all of that. It's our own community guidelines. It's what our viewers tell us, and it's what our algorithms are doing on a continuous basis.
Okay. So
one of the questions that keeps popping up here on the screen is that, are we going to have a recording? Everything that we've done up to now is there on our website. We've had 3 pre-summit events starting in August, September, October. In August, we had Mr. Vishnu Karthik do the curtain raiser for the Education Summit. In September, we had psychologist Binay Saukar do the curtain raiser for the Parenting Summit. And we had a fascinating session last year with the youth, young people across various levels, socioeconomic levels, across the boards, coming together and saying what kind of changes they would like to see in the education system and in the parenting system. All that is up on our website in the past events section, and so will today's session be. So you can go back to it, you can listen to it carefully. Are there any questions, any more questions for Mr.
Yeah, one last question from me. Recently, we've been seeing the YouTube Premium, the paid YouTube channel. I would like to know what distinguishes it from the regular YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And YouTube Premium it actually allows you to enjoy everything that is there on YouTube without any ads, right? So at this point of time, if you log on to YouTube, you obviously might see a few ads here and there. But the minute you sign on to YouTube Premium, you actually then get all of YouTube without any ads, right? So that's the basic functionality that we offer. In addition to that, you also get another app which is known as the YouTube Music Premium, which basically allows you to have a fantastic music experience, especially if you're a music lover. So that really is what the entire premium set of offerings is all about.
So That's
Thank
it.
you.
If Kumi has any questions, Kumi?
Thank you very much, Satya. I'm wondering if the audience has any questions for the change facilitators for the action project. Yes, Satya talked about reaching out to millions through the digital medium, and that's exactly what Ruslan and Fraser and others have done. They've reached out to millions through the digital medium, and they are inviting you to take part in the action project. So are there any specific questions for the change facilitators now? Anyone? The 4 change facilitators are providing training for 12 hours, and you can avail of that training entirely free of cost if you sign up as members of the action group. So are there any questions that you have? The Google Forms will be available from Monday, and you can go to our website and you can fill those forms in. Please share again. Sorry, please share again. Could you get that, Donna? Yes. All right. Fraser has already answered it, I think. Any further questions? They're going to do it in very diverse ways, and it's really interesting to see how they plan their project. So we do hope there will be some takers and people who sign up as action group members. Any other questions, please? Or there could be questions once again for our main speaker, Mr. Satya Raghavan. Okay, there don't seem to be too many questions then. We just wait for a moment, and if it's not there, I mean, never mind thanking us, we know. Thank you for being here. Thank you, participants. It's you who've made it successful by turning up in such large numbers. All right, in that case, I will invite Ms. Shalanta. 1 minute, is there a question there? No, all right. Ms. Shalanta Mascarenas to kindly propose the vote of thanks. Shalanta, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kumi. Thank you, Mr. Satya Raghavan. We have greatly benefited. I'm sorry, is there a disturbance? Can you all hear me clearly?
We can hear you, Shalanta.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Satya Raghavan. We have greatly benefited from your expert views. Many thanks also to the team of change facilitators comprising Mr. Ruslan Khusainov, Mr. Fraser Scott, Father Jude Fernandes, Dr. Kavita Pandey, and Ms. Samina Agwan. We know that you have worked consistently for months to put together a very meaningful action project. Our thanks go out to all our participants who have joined us today from all over India and different countries of the world. Do also register for the Parenting Summit from the 8th to the 31st of January 2021. Kindly note that these sessions are specially scheduled only for weekends for your convenience. We need you to work collaboratively with us to bring about the change we want to see in the world. I'll just share my screen right now for details for the action project. Just give me a second. I hope you can see this. Kindly note that the Google form to join the action project and spreading awareness of basic rights and equality to the digital medium will be available on our website www.gtpsforchange.org from Monday, 23rd November 2020. I repeat, the Google form will be available on our website from Monday, 23rd November 2020. We're also looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for our next session from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. on creating an experiential school by the leading authority in experiential learning, Mr. Manip Jain, and his wonderful team of change facilitators. Do also follow us, the Global Tipping Point Summit, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until then, stay safe. Thank you.